was that, I know recently you signed like a 6-figure contract with one client, which I've not even done before, so props to you. That's awesome. Was that your biggest deal yet?
That is my biggest contract in the history of my existence. Yeah, I haven't.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a student spotlight interview from the Client Ascension community. My name is Andre, and I'm here with my good friend Connor Skelly. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Andre. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. So just to get us started, for the audience out there who might not be familiar with you yet, or other students throughout the program, you obviously have been in the program for a little while now, and you've been one of the most successful students to go through it, and a lot of different factors, which we'll talk about on today's interview. But just to get us started, who are you and what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so my name's Connor. I run a marketing and sales ops agency for businesses that use HubSpot. I started the agency formally like just before I joined Client Ascension, just about like a month before I joined it. And it's really taken off from there. Just ended up kind of consolidating all my consulting work into one offer and one agency. And Client Ascension's kind of been there from the beginning.
That's really interesting. So you started an agency a month before joining Client Ascension, so there wasn't much of a time gap there. So I guess what was the decision first to start the agency? Like what convinced you to start an agency, and then what convinced you to join Client Ascension a month after?
Yeah, so I've been doing marketing consulting on and off for like 6 years and just doing all different kinds of stuff. And so my last full-time role, I got really, I was the marketing director. I built a team from the ground up. And I just got really interested in systems and operations. And once I left that job, I just had consulting work that was focused on that and focused on like the companies that were using HubSpot. So I did that for like 6-7 months and was like, let me just consolidate everything into one. Stop trying to do everything under the sun when it comes to marketing and just do this one thing. So, I did that. And then, I've been lurking like money Twitter for a while, probably like it was like a year and a half at that point, following like, Cold Email Wizard and Chase Diamond and those guys. And then Internet Money had come out like around that same time, like Cold Email Wizard's Internet Money. And so I joined that and then was in it for like 6 weeks and was like, I gotta graduate to Client Ascension.
That's so awesome, man. So you heard about it through just lurking on Twitter, got into like the entry-level offer and realized you needed something higher level, something a little bit scarier of an investment, I'm sure, to just basically go all in on this. So the question I have for you is, when you joined Client Ascension or around that time with your agency, like what would you say was the biggest problem you were trying to solve at the time?
Yeah, so I think like I had just gotten over the problem of positioning the offer, communicating it the right way. Internet Money really helped with that, just like the basic foundational stuff. And then going into Client Ascension, for me, it was like the very first thing I did was like VSL setup. And like Steven was great with that. But getting into like the sales calls, tweaking some of the offer positioning a little bit, but definitely like improving sales calls was like a big thing for me, just because like I've done it with my consulting work in the past, but it's different when like you're kind of focusing on one thing and like you're doing it at a higher volume, and it's just a different dynamic. And plus, when you learn about what all these other people are doing, it's like, well, how are you running those sales calls? And you can get all those insights in the community.
Yeah, there's really an art to it, which is so interesting. And so what would you say, like, if someone is struggling with sales, because I feel like a lot of people do, especially early on in their agency, and it might have a lot to do with their offer not being fully fleshed out. But if sales is a big focus for someone, like what were some of the things you did early on? Was it call reviews? Was it just going to the coaching calls? Like what did that all look like? Going
to the coaching calls was probably the biggest thing. Just like seeing how other people, like what problems other people were experiencing. And because like I may say like, oh, this call didn't go a certain way. But then seeing another student go through a similar thing, like really helps reinforce the experience and the potential solutions that can come out of it. The response handling calls were really helpful, of just kind of going through and then like getting more and more conditioned into that mindset of like handling responses on a call. And Yeah, really just the big thing that clicked for me for sales calls was like the prospect is not your friend. That was like, because that is the antithesis of like my entire consulting sales approach beforehand.
Yeah, it's all rapport building, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just totally different than how I've done sales in the past. Like taking the friend route has worked pretty well, but it's different in this system.
Yeah, well, this clearly has worked for you. I've seen you in the Wins channel for the past couple of months, and especially recently, it's cool to see like the build up to it. Was that, I know recently you signed like a 6-figure contract with one client, which I've not even done before. Which, so props to you. That's awesome. Was that your biggest deal yet?
That is my biggest contract in the history of my existence. Yeah. I haven't, even like no full-time salary has breached that. So, consulting contracts. That was the biggest one, and that was a renewal for my first client with this agency.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So not only is the sales really locked down, but also the fulfillment and the offer and the value that you're providing, which all of it is so important. Yeah. So that's really cool. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Super inspiring for other students to see 6-figure deal with one client, like unheard of. So really cool.
It's wild.
Yeah, I even saw your tweet. I think before you sent it out, or when you sent it out, you're like, "Pray for me." Like,
I felt good about it going into it, but you never know, right? You never really know how it goes. So yeah, I'm happy it happened.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, congrats on that. I want to talk a little bit about like your experience in Client Ascension, not so much about like the actual program, but just meeting other people in the community. And so maybe let's talk about last October. Right now we're recording this in March. So a couple of months ago, we did our first event in Tampa. You were one of the guys that flew out. I think actually, were you one of the guys that won like the free flight?
That is what brought me from internet money into Client Ascension.
No way.
Yeah. Daniel was like, the next person to join Client Ascension, we'll fly you out to Tampa. And he posted that in internet money. And I already had a sales call with Client Ascension scheduled for the next day. And it was me. So
I remember because I was in the DMs like doing the flight bookings or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was a very, I imagine, unique and fun entrance into the community.
Yeah. I think we only did that once. So if you're listening to this, no, we're not going to buy you a flight. Yeah. Maybe we will. Who knows? But regardless, now that you went through that experience, you went to the event, you met people at the event. I'm sure you would have been very happy to pay for the flight.
100%
ticket.
100%.
So maybe just talk about that whole experience because I think that's super unique.
Yeah. So like one, just entering the community through that funnel, I guess, was pretty funny. The event itself was great. Like I had always struggled. I talked about this before. Like I've always struggled with like finding that group of people that like just love talking about business. Cause like I have friends that like do it, but like they get burnt out quickly. And so, being like just being in the Client Ascension community really fills that. But then being able to see these people in person and like all talk about the same topics and learn about new things and whatever it is, just really help reinforces like the importance of the community. And then, there's probably 10 or 15 people or so that I've met through Client Ascension that like I talk to on a daily or weekly basis. So yeah, it's definitely been a great way to meet new people and make new friends and all that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know if you want to go into the specific details, but I know I don't know if this happened because I don't even really know the background. So I'd be interested in learning a little bit more of the story here of maility and how that partnership came to be.
Yeah, so I was part of when maility was doing like its alpha stage. I was like one of the small group of people that was in on it. So I was using the tool early. I really liked it, and I think actually I may have gotten a client during the alpha stage with like using maility, which is kind of funny. But then, there was like a soft launch of it sort of at the Client Ascension event. And I had been thinking about, getting more involved with the company if they'd have me. And just had a conversation with David Jacob, the CEO of it. And it sort of worked out where like, it was very like serendipitous where they had already they were talking about potential plans, like, and how they wanted to develop the product and like more future roadmap stuff. And I learned that like they were going to reach out to me to like help them do it. So it was like pure like circumstance, and like that it just sort of met that way. And yeah, I've been working with the team since, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for people listening, Maility is a sending tool that was created, a sending tool platform. It's a company, obviously, as well, that was created by two students that were actually two of the first ever students in Client Ascension way back in 2021, like 2 years ago. And so, yeah, it's really cool that we were able to unveil, because also myself and the founders of Client Ascension are business partners in that venture as well. So we were able to unveil the launch at our first ever in-person event last year, and you got involved. So that's what I love about Client Ascension in the community, and it's really hard to see this from an outside view or perspective until you're really in it. But just the amount of opportunities that start to come your way just by being around other people that, like you said, love business, love to succeed, are highly ambitious, highly skilled.
Yeah.
And if you have something to bring to the table, which you have something very, very unique and valuable, there's going to be opportunities for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the amount of like the ROI that you get on Client Ascension is nearly immediate, right? Because you get tapped into that network, which has immense value. And then, yeah, just the amount of like deals that I've closed a couple deals sourced from Client Ascension. If I ever need like an agency partner or something like that for a current client, or I need something to build up my own business, like Client Ascension is where I go first. Because like there's just a massive amount of people that have all different kinds of businesses, and they're all pretty good at what they do. So
yeah, 100%, man. So one question I always love to ask, because really I do these for the students and even for myself, just to learn, like, what do you guys really like about the program? What can we do more of? What really works? Because there's so much in the program, right? There's like 12 weekly calls. There's probably over 200 videos now in the actual learning platform. Like, there's no way you're going to get through all of it. You're not going to meet everyone. You're not going to talk to everyone. You're not going to learn everything. It's quite literally impossible. So what would you say to a new student or a student that's in Client Ascension that's not getting the full value? How have you been able to get the full value?
Yeah, try to take stock of like where you're at in your business and like what you truly need help with, because it's easy to get overwhelmed with all of the different Slack channels and the call recordings and all the different trainings and stuff. It's easy to get overwhelmed, but it's also like very easy to get excited about it. So like, I know I've done this. A lot of students will do this. They'll just like binge a ton of videos over the course of a weekend. But I don't think that like you can really take action on all that kind of stuff. So like my advice would be to like really understand what you need help with, because chances are it's something somewhere in Client Ascension, like there are answers to that. But then like going all in on that one thing. Solving that, getting it to where you want it to go, and then moving on to the next thing. So like for me, it just happened to be VSLs, which is probably like not the best place to start, but did that, sorted it out with Steven, and then, that happened for a week, and then I went on to sales calls, and then I went on to the next thing. So I take it more in a bite-sized approach, and don't try to like boil the ocean with it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because I feel like what happens is people get overwhelmed and they leave, or they don't take action. Because it is very overwhelming. So I love the way you approach it, is just focus on the biggest problem or the biggest task at hand. And then once you solve it, move on to the next one, because there's always going to be the next thing. Yeah. VSLs are interesting, right? Because on the surface, it's just like, oh, it's a video sales letter that you'll slap on your website. But when I did my VSL, it was probably the most valuable exercise to help me get more clarity on what my offer was.
Yeah.
It's really absolutely like an offer creation process.
It has absolutely helped me. Like, it forces you to think more critically about how you frame sales calls, how you frame like the rest of your website, how you just think about your offer and the value you're providing. It's definitely, it's more than just a video slapped on your website.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'm happy you said that. Few more questions here. The next question is more broad. So this will go on my YouTube channel. And so people even outside of Client Ascension and on Twitter will see this. And so the question here is like, What advice would you have for someone that's just getting started with their agency? They're not in client ascension, but they just are getting started with an agency similar to where you were at before you joined Internet Money and everything else. Like, what are those first steps to get started? What should they look out for? What should they do based on your experience?
Yeah. So assuming they've picked some sort of offer at this point, and they want to go down a path of whatever it is, get really good at it. Like everything else, you can be really good at sales. You can be really good at writing content, whatever it is. Like but if your core service, like if you're not good at it, you're gonna fail. I've seen people where they just like immediately start to outsource their fulfillment without actually really knowing the thing themselves, and they don't last very long. So I think having, if you're starting out, making sure you're very competent at what you're selling is first and foremost. You will get better along the way, right? You'll get better at how you can structure that work, how you then start to delegate those things. But those are just hurdles that you'll face as you make more and more money each month and get more clients. So yeah, if fulfillment isn't there, everything else breaks down.
So true. This has been a really big topic of conversation. Within client ascension community is just getting real with yourself. Is like, spend the time to get good at the service. You have to be able to provide value. Like the core of an agency business is offering a service that is valuable to someone else. It's not skinning them for money. That's not what it is at all. And it gets a bad rep, especially with some of these SMMA guys. And just the agency game in general. But the guys that last the longest, stick around the longest, and exactly what you said earlier, you signed your biggest contract, which was not a new client. It was actually a renewal. And that says everything about your ability to deliver value and quality service.
Yeah, that was their fourth renewal.
I love that you said that, because it's not talked about nearly enough to build a sustainable agency. And I think that's a big reason why you're able to scale so quickly.
And it's sort of like, I understand that people, like, it's tough for people to get over that, right? Like, because for me, like, this is my first time building a business from an operator perspective. Like, I've done solo consulting stuff. I could run that. I could have a decent business where it's just me, and I could do that forever, but it's not interesting to me anymore. So like, when people tend to build these agencies, they want to build it more and more and move themselves farther and farther away from the business. So I think going into creating a business with that mindset, it has a lot of friction with actually being good at the service, because they're like, oh, if I just want to move away from the business, I don't have to be that good at fulfillment. Well, you're not going to have a business if you're not good at fulfillment. So you have to just start from that. And then as you get better, you'll learn what the new hurdles are of scaling better systems. You'll join Client Ascension, you'll hop on Andre's calls, and then you'll get better at operations and scaling. Yeah.
Don't come to my calls and be like, oh, I'm just going to outsource it all. It's like, no, you're not. You're going to learn how to do it first.
Yeah, I know. That's where that's been a big challenge for me, is like moving away from the work and how to do this correctly, especially with this kind of agency, because it's pretty technical. So that's my big challenge right now.
Nice. Hey, there's always the biggest thing I've learned from Cole Gordon, I think, said this, is the moment you solve a problem in business, there's one thing that happens for certain, is a new problem is created somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's your job to go find it and solve it quickly. And that's all it is. It's like in business, you're never done solving problems. It's literally always never-ending problems. And that's what makes it fun. It's like an infinite game.
Never-ending checklist.
So awesome, man. This has been a lot of fun. To wrap it up, I just want to ask, where can people find you, follow you, and learn more about potentially working with you in your agency?
Yeah, so primarily on Twitter, at HS Growth Guy. My agency's website is Fission, FISSION, agency.com. Again, we do marketing and sales ops for HubSpot businesses, making their CRMs run better. So yeah, if you use HubSpot or you're going to use it and you want better systems, you can reach out.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you, Connor. Keep crushing it, man. You're one of the most valuable assets in the Client Ascension community. So if you are watching this and you're in the community, be sure to connect with Connor, reach out and see how you can provide value to him and to everyone else in the community. That's what this is all about. And I'll catch you guys on the next student spotlight interview. Thanks.